So if you ask me, what is the core mission of Activated as a platform, as an organization? I would tell you that our mission and our values center around providing the right information, the right tools, the right frameworks, the right ideas and content that can help you deal with changes and transitions in life. And so I decided that for this podcast episode, I would center it around the core mission of what we are as Activated. In case you're wondering, what's the thing that we are focused on? What is it that interests us? We want you to live an activated life by dealing with the changes and the transitions in ways that can help you be a better person, to accomplish more, to do more, not just for yourself, but for others. And along the way, to help you understand that we believe in a God that can get you there. And so in today's episode, I want to talk about the relationship between change and transitions. Life is interesting for so many reasons for each of us. One thing that we cannot deny is the reality of change. In fact, the one constant in life is change. Right from our daily routines to big life events, there are changes that take place every day. In fact, from a physical perspective, every day you are not the same person. Your skin is changing. Your cells are changing. You're aging just a little bit each day that comes and goes. And we live in a generation where change is so often, so massive and so frequent that we are always playing catch up. Whether it be technological advancements, whether it be the medical field, whether it be the diseases, whether it be just the politics and the finances, things are constantly changing. Something new is coming and replacing the old. Our challenge as individuals is navigating all of this change and doing our best to transition. Robert Louis Stevenson, he is a popular author. In fact, if you've heard of book titles like Treasure Island or Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, he's responsible for writing those books that have become scripts for movies and animated series and stuff like that. And he said something that I think captures the essence of the relationship between change and transition. Listen to what he says. Wherever you are, it is but a stage on the way to somewhere else. And whatever we do, however well we do it, it is only a preparation to do something else that shall be different. Let me put it simply. He's trying to say that, listen, whatever it is you're doing now, whatever role you're playing, whatever you're studying, wherever you're living, whatever job occupies you, whatever people you have around you, that is just one moment, one point in life. The next moment change will come. It could be days, it could be weeks, months, or years. Where you are now is not where you will be then. Your assignment is to constantly be figuring out, who am I becoming? What can I do? And how can I get there? And that's why we have positioned ourselves as a platform to say, listen, we want to share things with you that help you through the transitions of life. So here's a confession. For the longest time, I thought that the words change and the word transition meant the same thing. I took them as synonymous, that if you say change or transition, it's the same thing. But in actual fact, there's a slight difference in the idea of what change is in relationship to transition. And I'll tell you what made that switch for me. See, I was listening to an audio on LinkedIn. It led me to an article written by Karen Ferris. And the title of the article was the beginning of a quote I'm going to share later on. But here's what it said. It isn't changes that do you in, it's the transitions. So when she said that, I wanted to really track what does she mean by that idea. And so it got me interested. So I went down the rabbit hole, and I came in contact with the person she was echoing, whose name is William Bridges. Okay, William Bridges wrote 2 books on the idea of transition. In fact, he is considered an expert on change and transition. He developed what is known as the Bridges Transitional Model. The Bridges Transitional Model. In other words, it just simply offers a fresh perspective on how people approach transition, both personally and within organizations. In the Early 2000s, he was a sought after speaker and trainer for different organizations on how employees can either catch up with the culture or the changes that a company wanted, or a company can pivot and accommodate its workers to create an environment that allowed them to handle change better. See, our past and our present contribute to managing our future. And so his idea was, what are the stages that you go through in the process of transitioning? So I want to take you through his model very briefly so you can sort of track what transition is and what change is. But first, listen to what he says. It is not changes that do you in, it's the transitions. Change is not the same as transition. Change is situational. The new site, the new boss, the new team, the new role, the new policy. Transition is the psychological process people go through to come to terms with the new situation. And then he says something that resonated with me, and really it was a light bulb moment. Change is external. Transition is internal. Right? Did you get that? So change is what happens to you, right? Moving to a new location, moving to a new neighborhood, getting a new job, a new relationship, a new health challenge that you have to deal with. Those are changes. These changes can be intentional, they can be planned on your part, or it can be circumstantial. Things that happen to you, not necessarily for you, but they happen to you. A pandemic hits. The company shuts down, the business goes under, health failure, a diagnosis that really gets you to the point where changes must come. But with transition, it's your response to change. To transition is what you internally go through in dealing with these changes. And so in a very interesting way, the William Bridges model for transition addresses the three phases that everybody must or does go through when dealing with change. Now, to be clear, it's not a clear-cut stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 idea. It's sometimes overlaps, okay? We go through this in different cycles and we deal with it in different ways. So don't think of it as a solid model that happens all the time. But it can really get you thinking about it all. Now, here's what it looks like. The first stage he calls the ending, or the losing, or the letting go. You know how it is when your job comes to an end and you've done the farewell party? That's the first stage. You let go of something. You leave the country, you leave the job, you leave the place, you leave the school. You're moving from high school to university. You moving away from the safety of campus life, where there are lecturers and counselors and chaplains to help you through the phase of education. Now you got to move on to the next phase. So you're letting go of something, right? You're getting out of what was in order to make room for what will be. So he calls it the ending, the losing, the letting go. That's part of transitioning. You got to learn to let go, because if you don't let go, you carry with you the baggage, the negative ideas, and the traumatic experiences of what was onto the next thing. If you've had an amazing work experience, and then you take a job where it's not the same, because of the environment that was positive and good, you cannot adapt to what's new because you never quite let go. That's where you get the idea of when people say, back in the day, or in my church, or in my country. That's failure to let go. While it's okay to appreciate what was before, how it was before, you have to learn to make room for what lies ahead. And so the first stage, he calls it the ending, the losing, the letting go. A transition always begins with an ending. Something must come to an end before something else even begins. The second stage he calls the neutral zone. The neutral zone. This is about the emotional impact of change, right? After leaving behind an old situation, old ways, and making room for what comes next, there's fear, there's a denial, there's a lot of feeling less than or feeling alone. There's all these emotions that come with the process of transitioning. Okay, and I'm going to share with you the impact of transitioning, but right now I want to talk about Bridges' model. He talks about the neutral zone, right? You're starting to realign yourself, you're starting to create new patterns, mental ones, you're adapting to what comes next, you want to be able to move from one culture to the next. That comes with an emotional adjustment. And then the final stage he calls the new beginning. Now you're in the new thing. You've adapted. You are now resigning yourself from what was and adapting to what lies ahead. See, people then find a new sense of clarity in the new beginning, right? They gain their new direction. They gain a sense of footing. They have renewed purpose, fresh understanding of the roles, the structures, the organization. Everything is starting to fall in place. Why? Because you've adopted this idea that now I'm starting over. Like I said, it's not a model you can perfectly put your life in, but I think you understand how it fits in, right? You got to let go, you got to process, you got to start over. You got to let go, you got to process, you got to start over. If you learn to process in this way, you will find yourself dealing with transitions in a much better way. So let me talk about the impact of transitioning, because let's be honest, going through that emotional process of dealing with change has a lot of impacts. So I'm going to give you 11 impacts that change can have on you, or that transitions can have on you. Why 11? Well, I just wanted to not do 10 or do 12. I just want to share 11 of them very quickly. The first one, relationship impact. See, transitions impact relationships. When you leave a place, in 2009, I left the continent of Africa to come to Asia. That meant leaving behind familiar places, familiar people. I left my family back there, my parents, my siblings, my cousins, my friends. I created a distance between them and me. It meant that now I was going to make new friends, meet new people, and have new experiences with these people. So transitioning requires, or it has a relational impact on you, because you are changing your social circle, and your family dynamic is changing. And so you have to start adjusting yourself to knowing that now I can't speak to these people face to face. Now it's FaceTime, it's calls, it's text. You have to depend on technology to update yourself or them about what's going on with you. And then there's the impact of isolation. It's connected to the first one in some sense, because when you move to a new place, the people you once knew are not there. But on top of that, sometimes change feels like it's only you going through it, right? You get a diagnosis, you get a job that's difficult, you apply for a course that is requiring more than you're able to give, and so you're so stretched, it feels like it's only you going through it. When you try to explain to people what's happening, it's difficult. You can't do it. It's almost as if you are pretending things are hard when they're not, and so you start to feel alone. It makes the process of transitioning daunting and tiring. Okay, let's talk about the identity impact, right? Transitions, especially major life changes, they can cause you to reassess your identity. Is this who I really am? Am I built for this? Can I do this on my own? Did I do this because I thought I could, or because somebody else told me? You start to question yourself. Your identity comes into focus, and this adds another layer of complexity in the process of transitioning. A lot of young people struggle with this. They begin asking themselves, who am I? Because who they are, their values, and their upbringing gets very challenged in this new situation that they find themselves in. And so there's an impact to identity. Let's talk about the emotional impact. A transition can stir up a bunch of emotions that need to be managed in the process. Sometimes you are excited about the change. You're excited about the new place. You're ready to go. You're energized. You're ready for whatever life has to throw at you. But sometimes you're not ready for it. You're unprepared. What you thought things would be like, they're not. It's not working out the way you pictured it. In fact, it is the opposite. And so you become stressed out, you become depressed and disappointed, and you start to entertain morbid thoughts about how this was a bad decision and why you shouldn't be here. Now listen, I'm testifying right now. That's what it was like for me when I moved from Zimbabwe, from Africa to the Philippines. There was an emotional impact in the transitional process that without the friends that I made and the people I met and the prayer partners that I built around me, it would have been harder than it was, because any kind of change that impacts your life in a major way will have an emotional impact. And this leads to the physical impact. Your body gets involved in it. You become stressed out and your body reacts to it, or it's a new job that requires more hours. It requires more physical stamina on your part. Maybe it has more mental stress. You're dealing with more students. You're dealing with more members. You're dealing with more clients. And so there's a physical impact that must be considered, right? These changes could be, the physical impact could be your living conditions, your lifestyle. Maybe you moved from a neighborhood with houses, and now you live in an apartment where there's more traffic, more noise, more people. Maybe you were out of town where there's less things to deal with and less impact on traffic and all that kind of stuff. But now you're in the city. And so that has a physical impact on your life, health-wise and well-being. A financial impact. Listen. It costs money to move from one country to another. It costs money to relocate. It costs money to leave a job that paid more to take one that pays less. It costs money to buy a home. It costs money to live in a place that costs more rent than before. A change in lifestyle has a financial impact. A diagnosis, somebody getting sick in the family, that's going to affect the money in the home. All these things affect you financially. We live at a time when even water, you have to pay for it. Some places, even oxygen, the air that you breathe, you must pay for it just to have healthy air. So there's a financial impact to transitioning. And then there's the impact of fear. Now we get into the person that you are as an individual. The unknown, the uncertain, it induces fear, and it makes the process of change more difficult, because uncertainty is a dark place nobody should live in. And so there's the impact of fear. The impact of loss. Sometimes people leave something behind. They feel like they're losing something that is old, but not really gaining something that is new. And so when you walk away from the family, when you walk away from the crew, the crowd, your old workmates and your old schoolmates and your old teammates, it feels like you're losing something. And so when you entertain the concept of loss, the transition is way harder and the adjustment is more difficult. And then the impact of potential failure. There's nothing like leaving the comfort zone of what you're used to, the way you've done things and the people you've done them with. You always knew that so-and-so did this and they did that and I stepped in. But in a new environment, it's a new role, it's a new organization, it's a new culture, new church, new school, new place. And so you have to deal with the fear and the potential experience of failing. The stress impact. We've covered this in some shape or form, but stress is something that needs to be addressed. There is a definite need to always focus on the fact that in a new experience, it requires so much emotional toll, physical toll, financial toll, and the isolation aspect of it that will lead to stress. And then the final one, the impact of uncertainty. Listen. The unpredictability that accompanies transition can make it difficult to plan for the future, right? And it adds more challenges to dealing with change. So I've given you 11 of them. You look at that list again. You decide which one are you really dealing with right now as a person. Address it so that you can move on and deal with the change. Now, the last one I said was uncertainty. Now, when it comes to uncertainty, it all depends on the impact of the change. Sometimes the impact of change is instant. It's at that moment, right? It happens immediately, right? Somebody dies, you get fired. That's immediate. But then there's a place I call the in-between, right? The in-between place. This is between jobs. You graduated from university. It was an exciting time. You took pictures with family and friends. You threw the cap up. You took pictures in your gown. You created memories of what was. But now, you've sent out job applications. You're excited about the next stage of your life, but there's no internship. There's no job, no salary coming in. All you got is student debt. All you've got is family members just waiting to see what happens for you, the in-between. Being single and wanting to get married, the in-between, right? You always find yourself in the in-between place. And this is something that causes all the impact we discussed, right? You move to a new place. It takes a while to make friends. It takes a while to adapt to the new job. You're stuck in this place where you're thinking, should I have done this? Was this a good idea? So when you think about, I was trying to think of an interesting example of how change can be sudden and it requires transition. And I thought about one that was interesting because of the fact that I'm into basketball, and there's an example of a basketball player during the 2019 NBA basketball season, a player named Harrison Barnes. At the time, he was playing for the Dallas Mavericks. And during the game, Barnes played for 25 minutes. He scored 10 points. But all of a sudden, in the third quarter, he was informed that he was no longer a Dallas Maverick. Now he was a Sacramento King, which meant that the Dallas Maverick organization had transferred him to the Sacramento Kings because that's what they can do. And as a player, you can question it, especially if it's in your contract. Now, for most players, their contracts change during the off season, after the playoffs, and it's summertime, it's downtime. That's when players are starting to consider where they want to play. The agents are making deals and teams are making deals. But for Harrison Barnes, it happened during a game. And it's such a shock because as a player, not only do you move from one team to another, it means you're moving cities. And if you're married with children, that means that at some point your kids are going to have to move or you have to commute. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what change looks like. And for him, he has to transition from I'm used to playing on the Dallas Maverick lineup to now I am a Sacramento King. There's new plays, there's new coach, there's new staff, new environment, and he has to transition. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a short window for an in-between place to find yourself in. But sometimes that window is much bigger. As a spiritual man, I thought it pertinent to give examples from the scriptures so you understand the fact that sometimes the in-between place lasts longer. You have Abraham and Sarah. They're old. They've settled with the idea that they're never going to have children. All of a sudden, God comes up and says, hey, you're going to give birth to a son. He's going to have kids. And by the time you're done, you're going to have as many kids as the stars in the sky or the sand on the seashore. But they're old. The first transition they needed to do was believing that God could do it. But then all of a sudden, 10 years pass before a child comes. That's a difficult in-between place to deal with. You got the promise, you got the thing, somebody said it was coming, they said they'll do it for you, but it takes a long time to materialize. Maybe you're Joseph. You get a vision, you get a dream that one day your parents and your siblings will bow down to you, that you will be somebody. But God doesn't give you the full picture now, does he? He doesn't tell you that you are going to be sold as a slave by your own brothers. He doesn't tell you that you're going to work in Potiphar's house, get promoted, get accused of rape, get thrown in prison, then become the prime minister of Egypt. That's not in the plan. That's not in the playbook. You're just told it's coming and it takes years. Maybe you're David. You're anointed king at the age of 17, but you only become king at 32. In between, there's an assassination attempt on you. You have to run away from home. You're always living in caves and in places where a king should not be. But all of that is the in-between. See, here's what I picture transitioning like. Transitioning is like driving in a dark forest. The only thing you can see is the areas where the light is shining. Now, you can worry about what's going on in the darkness. That's up to you. Or you can focus on what the light is showing you in front of your face. And when you do that, you move according to what the light reveals. And I can tell you right now, worrying about obstacles and challenges that haven't happened yet will distract you. And if you're not careful, you can actually make an accident and not get where you're going. So decide, am I going to follow the light or am I going to follow the darkness? I want to share with you some tools that you need to navigate the transitions in life. Now, to be clear, this is not things that you have to buy or things that you have to make or acquire. It's not the things that you can touch and feel in the concept of tools. Oh no. Think of them as mental tools that can help you get through change, whether it's planned or unplanned. The first tool that you need is self-awareness. See, you need to be able to acknowledge your strengths and your weaknesses. Okay, let's say, for example, that you are great at detail. You're the kind of person that sees the trees in the forest or the forest of the trees, whichever one of those expressions is correct, right? You know how to handle it. You can see the detail, but you're not good at public speaking. You don't know how to express yourself, right? So that's self-awareness. And so when dealing with transitions, know yourself. Know what it is that drives you. Know what it is that motivates you as an individual. Right? Know your strengths, know your weaknesses, know your skill level, know your learning level, know what you are able to adapt to and what you cannot. Understand your value system, right? That is self-awareness. You use the knowledge you have about yourself to your advantage in dealing with the new task, the new role, the new life, the new experience. So that's tool number one. The second tool is learn to set goals. Always have something to work towards, because even though we cannot control change, right? We cannot control what happens to us. What we can do is have goals, all right? Realistic objectives, realistic goals. For example, you want to run a marathon, right? You start with smaller races. You start with 1 kilometer. You start with 5 kilometers. You go on to 10 kilometers, and eventually you're clocking that whole 42 kilometer long marathon that people run. But it begins with small steps. And when you start to develop this tool of setting goals and planning your life, it becomes easier to deal with change and to transition along the way. We mentioned stress before, and I must mention it again. Know how to manage your stress, okay? Utilize techniques like working out, breathing, seeking help, talking to somebody, prayer, meditating. Do anything you can to manage the stress in your life, because sometimes uncertainty is noise that if you don't manage it well, sometimes it's not just the noise of uncertainty, but it's the things that people say. See, in life, there are people who've tried something and failed, or there are people who've never tried it because they thought they would fail. And then they tell you, don't do it. I tried, it never worked. Or don't do it. I didn't try it, therefore you shouldn't. And so you need to manage your stress by taking time to work on yourself, go to the gym, exercise, run, jog, walk, do something to manage your stress, because it can be the difference between growing and being set back. Another tool that you need to develop is having a support system. That is so important. I'm going to talk more about that in a moment, because I want you to understand what transitions are like and how you can manage them. But you need a support system. Lean on family, lean on friends, lean on the professional network of people you have around you, especially during challenging times. You have no idea how many conversations I had with my mother while in the Philippines, and the prayer, just remembering that every day at 2 a.m. she's praying for her kids. That kept me going. Talking to my brother, talking to my friends, just being encouraged to just do it one more day, right? You need a support system, right? Join a club, join an online group, join a sports club, join a running club, a cycling club. Be a part of a support system in this new thing that will help you in the transition process. And then always strive for adaptability. Always strive for adaptability. What does that mean? Embrace change and always be ready to adjust your plans, right? I remember always talking about, I want to be married by 25, and by that time I should be working on my PhD. Listen to me. By the time I got to 30, I was single, no PhD. You got to adjust your plans. You got to adjust what comes next. And that means being adaptable. Learn a new skill, learn a language, be resourceful. Because if you don't adapt, you will be stuck and watch other people pass you by thinking that things are better for them than you. But the difference is they've learned to adjust. So let me tell you about the people you need to navigate the life transitions. I want to give them to you in a clever way so you can identify who's the right person for me to have in my life in order for me to handle this transition. The first person I call them, or the people, could be a person, it could be people, it could be an organization. It doesn't matter. A group, one person, is up to you. But you need what I call pathfinders. Okay? The pathfinder is the person that helps you navigate the new terrain. You know what it's like when you get to a new school and there's a student who's been there for years and they know where the library is. They know where the dormitories are. They know where the different classes and the different professors, officers. They know where the principal is. They know where the gym is. They know where the basketball court, the soccer pitch, the tennis court. They know their way around it. In life, you need pathfinders. These are the people that know who to talk to get the job done. Who's the right person for this and what's the right course to take? And they are willing to step up and help you figure it out. Because without them, it will take longer. It will take more resources and more energy and a whole lot of failure. Listen, there's very little that is new under the sun. A lot of people have done the thing you're trying to do. And so when you seek out the pathfinder, they will lead you to the place you need to go, to the right people. They'll point you to the right resources to help you get the job done. You need an anchor, okay? The anchor, this is the person that provides stability and support. Now, if you're in a relationship, it's always better if that person is the one that's the anchor. They provide the stability and the support that you can lean on whenever you feel it's so hard, or they can keep you grounded and even killed because you're not focused on your failures and you're not focused on your success. You're focused on the fact that my relationships matter more than the thing I'm doing. And so the anchor is the person that holds you down in the tough seasons and keeps you grounded in the seasons of success. They don't let your pride get the better of you. They don't let you go off the rails or drive off the path. They keep you focused. They are a support system that helps you. Then you have the catalyst. Okay, this is the person that sparks change, that helps you move forward. They know how to say the right thing. They know how to get you started. Whenever you feel discouraged, they know how to provide you with the right environment and the things you need. They are the change makers, the king makers, the queen makers. They the people who step in and help you grind, right? They the catalyst, the professor in university, the manager, the supervisor in the company, the one who's watching over your internship journey, the pastor, the parent. You can be a catalyst that sparks change in somebody's life. And you need to find people like that to help you in transitions. Let's talk about the healer. This is the person that helps you through the emotional, the psychological wounds of failure. These are the people that tell you, take a break. It'll be all right. Tomorrow's another day. If at first you don't succeed, try again. The healer is the person that knows how to say the right thing or not say anything at all. They're just there. They make you feel that it's okay to mess up, that it's okay to make mistakes, that it's okay to ask for forgiveness, that it's okay to give it to others. The healer is the person who is like a metaphorical band-aid to the hurts of life. Because let me tell you something, sometimes change comes with bruises. It comes with cuts and wounds that take a long time to heal. The healer will get you through. And then you got the visionary. This is the person that is not stuck on how things are today. This person sees the future. They see possibility. They see your potential and what you're able to do, and they encourage you every single day. They never let you wallow in what you have not been able to do. They get you to bootstrap yourself, tie your laces and roll up your sleeves and go to the next thing. The visionary is always making you look at the next thing. The visionary makes sure that you don't get stuck in yesterday's success, always talking about the way things were before, talking about how bad things were, why you can't move forward, or how that was the final thing you needed to do. Oh no, the visionary keeps you focused on the end game. They don't allow you to celebrate the little milestones and not move on. They allow you to celebrate, but they teach you to keep moving forward. Then you've got the optimist. This person keeps morale high. This person does not allow you to be negative. They don't allow you to always talk about how things are difficult and to be pessimistic. No. They keep your positive edge going, right? They're always hopeful, they're driven, and they always make sure that in times of uncertainty, they tell you you've been here before. Okay, the glass is half full, not half empty. This is the person that keeps you moving, right? The optimist. And then you've got the realist, because sometimes in life, when it comes to change, we need the realist. We make decisions that don't make any sense. We want to shoot for the stars when really we just belong in the sky. We want more than we're capable of, that even if we did the training or the skill, it wouldn't make any sense. I'm 42 years old now. I love basketball, but I can never play for the NBA. And if I try to do that, if I got real friends, the real ones, they would tell me, listen, man, it is not practical. You can reduce your expectations. You don't have to stop playing the sport, but be realistic. You need people like that. So listen, there's so much to say about transitioning, and I promise you there'll be a whole lot more content. So please go ahead, like the content if it has been good for you so far. Go ahead, share it with somebody, comment, let us know, is this valuable? Okay, what can we talk about that can really get you activated and deal with the transitions in your life? Follow us, put on the notification bell so that you're always updated on what we're doing next. Let me ask you a few questions before I shut this down. What changes are you navigating right now? What are the tools you need to focus on to do a better job of it? Who are the people you have at this moment? Are they helpful or are they harmful in the transition process? Let me share an activating passage of scripture for you right now that I think will really get you thinking about transitioning. The Bible says in Jeremiah 29 verse 11, "For I know the plans that I have for you, says the Lord. They are plans for good, not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope." See, there's comfort in knowing that God knows the end from the beginning. There's comfort in knowing that God will see you through the changes that come, that everything that happens to you is not a surprise to Him. But remember, the disclaimer is very important. While God may tell you that you have potential, while God may tell you that there's a purpose for you to play in this life, He doesn't give the details. Like a GPS, when you listen to that voice, it tells you what's going to happen in 200 meters. It tells you what's going to happen in 3 kilometers, but it can't predict whether there's an accident, an obstacle. It cannot tell you all that information. And so what you have to do is live an expectant life, because God's intention is to get you to the finish line. So what you need to do is trust Him, do things His way, and you will make it through whatever changes come, good or bad. So I pray that God will bless you through the transitions that you're going through right now, or the changes that you're going through. May you develop a transitional mindset that helps you navigate what comes next. God bless you, and see you in the next episode.